Well, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon to all of you. How are you doing? It's another Wednesday, and today we are on for same things, different days. And I'm sure you know that lots of same things have been happening on different days. And that's how the PPP roll, like the boys would say out there, that's how the PPP roll. Same things, different days. I want to send out shout outs to all of you who are tuned into this program at this time. I know, yes, I know that I've missed you for 2 weeks, but we're on here because we have a lot to share with you. And I want to say to you, call up your friends, call up your neighbors, call up everyone and let them know that same things, different days is on. Schools are out, and so our children are at home. Many of them are at home. Some from grade 5 are attending lessons, and we have some from the grades 10 and grades 9. They're having lessons too. So we're going to look out for those that are having lessons, and those that are home. Parents, ensure that you have activities to keep them engaged and make sure you monitor what they're doing, because we don't want our children to be left unattended and then they find all sorts of things to do, maybe to go cross the road, to go to a pond, to swim, to take a walk by the trench and somebody fall in and then somebody jump in for them. And then the next thing you know, what happened? We have what we had a few months ago with those two, the brother and the sister from way out there on the East Coast. So let's ensure that we monitor our children and we have activities so that they're going to be engaged meaningfully. We also have happening now Bible club, not Bible club, vacation Bible school. So those of us who are living in communities where we have those churches close by, ensure that you send your children to VBS, and that would engage them for almost half of the morning. So good morning, good afternoon, as a matter of fact, to all of those churches that are engaged in vacation Bible schools. Good afternoon to the teachers who are going to be there with our children. I trust that you're going to have lots and lots of fun with them. But hey, Diana, what's happening with you? What's happening with our folks there in Barbados, our folks in Trinidad, our folks in St. Lucia, our folks all across the Caribbean, and more especially our folks in the USA, our folks in Canada, our folks in the UK? What's happening with you? And of course, I've got to send shout outs to my friends way out there in Switzerland and Turkey. They're always tuned in when we're having these programs. And I didn't want to do it, but I have to do it. As I send the shout outs to everybody else, I have to mention this one particular person who doesn't deserve a shout out. His name is Anand Budram. Anand Budram. He is the chairperson for a group called Caribbean Voice. A group called Caribbean Voice. And I want you to look for him on Facebook. Look for him on Facebook. Anand Budram, a very racist guy, a very sexist guy, and a guy who is very convenient in his memory. You know, these are the persons who want to talk down when you highlight issues that are affecting us here in Guyana. All of them, they jump out there and they live in the US and they want to dictate and tell Guyanese here, even though quite a lot of them are Guyanese, they want to tell Guyanese here how you must live. And you shouldn't talk about the corruption. You shouldn't talk about the suffering. You shouldn't talk about those international reports that are published, which speaks to 58% of Guyanese living in poverty and 38%, 32% living in abject poverty. You shouldn't talk about it. And so they want to jump out there to tell you about what Burnham did then and what Burnham didn't do. Hey, Annan, it seems as if after 40 years, this year is going to be 41 years of Burnham's death, that Burnham is still living in your head. He's still living in your brain. So every time issues are spoken about, rather than you dealing with the issues, you want to jump as if that's your safety spot to talk about what Burnham didn't do and Burnham punished the country and somebody did this. We didn't have the time for that. And if that's your satisfaction, keep it to yourself. And yes, I had to tell him yesterday, I had to tell this guy yesterday that he's jumping up as if he's related to Leon Susaram. Because every time somebody objected and somebody criticized the nonsense that he had on his post there, he was out going on and going on and going on. So shout out and good afternoon to everyone else except Anand Budram, who talks about they care about people and they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to help with mental illness and they want to run seminars and so on. And but deep down in their hearts, they're wicked. Wicked, let me say that. And it's a whole host of them. You check Facebook, you're going to see how many of them they're talking about. Why you talk about the man farm for? Why are this, that? What nonsense. Right can't be wrong because it's somebody that you're closely connected with doing it. And when others do it, you want to castigate them. Absolute nonsense. And we will have none of that. And so I will say to some of them, get gossa. We don't have time for that. You talk about what LFS, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham was doing, LFS Burnham, what he did and what he did not do. But you're not telling us some of what Chelly Jagan did. Chelly Jagan was no pie. You're not telling us about what Barra Jagdeo did to this country. He's no pie. So come on. If you want to speak, be fair. Talk about what everybody would have done. Do like Coretta McDonald. I speak about what the PPP would have done when the coalition was in government. I spoke about the wrong things that they did. But some of you can't do that because you're hanging your hand. And maybe you got your bowl like my friend Prince who drinking the, not soup. Some of you want to be good in the PPP's books. You want to come here and get contracts. So you don't want to talk about their wrongdoings. Gossa. So same things, different days. And of course, let's go on a high note now. We're going to send out birthday greetings and we want to send out birthday shout outs to one of our heroes. Robin Simon. Today she's celebrating her birthday. And so Robin, we want to send out happy birthday to you. And we want to wish you everything good that you wish for yourself. Do enjoy the day. I know they're trying to stop you as well, to muzzle you, but they can't do that to us. We're strong, powerful women, and they can't do it to us. Happy birthday to everyone else who's celebrating their birthday today, those who would have celebrated their birthdays yesterday, and the days before today. Happy birthday and happy belated birthday to you. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't be saying happy belated birthday because it's an entire year that you're going to have to live with that age. So every day should be your birthday. So be good and do enjoy. But as we roll with this program for this afternoon, same things, different days, we want to start off by talking about police harassment. And I have joining me in studio a very little young miss who's going to be joining us. And we have the seasoned campaigner, another seasoned campaigner who's going to be joining us. So we have Miss Jasmine Hackett who's going to be joining us, and we have also joining us MP Sharma Solomon. He's going to be joining us. So oh yes, he's right here. He is right here. So MP Hackett, start. Oh my, take it, claim that, claim that, claim that. So we have Councillor Hackett who's joining us. It's her first time here, but let me tell you, she's a little lady with a fantastic brain, and she can think for herself. She doesn't have to be led by anybody, unlike Anand Budram. She doesn't have to be led by anybody. And we have, of course, the seasoned campaigner, Solomon Sharma, who, you know, he says it when it's right and he gives commendation. And when it's wrong, he says it just the same way. We're not led by anybody because we want to be in anybody's good books. Black books can come and black books will go. So we don't want to be in anybody's black books. What we want to do is to do right by the people. And I've been saying this all along. Guyana has enough wealth. And so all of us can get a share of the pie. But we got some greedy people. We got some convenient, greedy people and some most greedy people who only see things from one side of their faces. Sharma, I'm sure that would remind you of a certain place and a certain person who only hears things from one side of his ears and sees from one side of his face. And that's when we sit in Parliament. So there's no need to sugarcoat it. We have to say it. So today, Sharma, we're going to look at same things, different days. And we want to start off by looking at police harassment. You will know this just as well as I know it. Jasmine is going to be she's into it now, and she's had a little bit of it. But I don't know, Sharma, if you want Jasmine to start off before we put the videos out there, or you want to start off. It's all up to you. But welcome to Same Things, Different Days.
Thank you very much, MP, and thanks for having me on the program. Good to be in the company of Councillor Hackett, and I'm certain that, as you said, very intelligent, and she'll certainly be able to hold her own. Thanks for having me. To your audience, it's good to be here with you all, and the birthday greetings to Comrade Simon and to our former lead and former president, Comrade Granger, who's celebrating his birthday today. I want to wish them both a happy and blessed birthday. But I can let Councillor Hackett go. I think she'll give us a good opener. You know, if I go Coretta, same thing, different day. I got a matter coming up on Saturday that is 14 years where we saw not only police brutality, but police killings on the 18th of July. So, Councillor Hackett, I'm giving you the opportunity to go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Guyana. MP, thank you for having me here. It is a pleasure to be here. Let me start by saying this. I've been watching the news, keeping up to date with everything that is going on in Guyana, and it really aches my heart to see that, you know, it is our young people that is being targeted a lot by the harassment of police. And I want to say something to the public that we must sit and analyze for ourselves. The PPP, they cover up everything that they do. And I've been seeing it over and over and over. Every single time you open the news, you go on Facebook, you open social media, you're seeing what is going on in the country. You're always hearing some police shooting somebody, and then when you look at it, or they're beating the people up, the citizens of Guyana, but when you look at what the government is doing, it is the same thing over and over. They keep covering up everything, every single thing they cover up for the police. The Guyana Defense Force continues to fail our country. And I was looking at it every time. It is a pattern now. It is becoming a pattern and a norm in this country that every time the police of Guyana is harassing the citizens, the government would see it as okay, right? And they would only speak about what they want to speak about when it is convenient for them. And I believe today it is important for the citizens of Guyana to acknowledge that enough is enough, and we must put an end to it. So listen, analyze for yourself. Go out there, speak up for yourselves, speak for your rights, because the police, the very people that are supposed to be protecting us, are the ones harming us. They are the ones who are bringing us down. The very people that we entrust to keep us safe, they're the very people causing hurts and harm in the country. And we must speak up for ourselves. Guyanese, we cannot stay silent. We cannot stay silent. It is too long now. Police harassment continues to rise in this country, and the government, sad to say, is doing nothing about it. Unfortunately, the government sees it as a norm. They see it as being okay. But today, I am here to tell you it is not okay. The police harassing the young people every minute you turn. Young people can't live in peace in this country, and it is so sad because every time you turn left, you turn right, you look back, you look in front of you, it is always police harassment. The young people are tired. And as a young person, I've been in and out of the different ghettos for the past few weeks because I still like to interact with those people. You're hearing you can't live in peace, you can't do this, you can't do that, without the police, you know, treating or ill-treating the young people, I should say. And today, I stand my grounds. Enough is enough. Thank you, MP.
Thanks, Cassie, as I would call her. And so this is a young lady. Cassie, if you don't mind, could you tell us what's your age?
I'm 20.
Cassie is 20 years old. So it's not somebody who's speaking that is 28 and 29. This is a 20-year-old who has been mixing and meddling, and she understands what police harassment is all about. Before we come to you, MP Sharma, I'm going to ask the operator to play one clip that we have there. while the operator is okay.
Yeah, people, this is at the funeral scene going on here right now. We live direct the Mohammed page. Yeah, look. Yeah, see, Mohammed is here, but the opposition is here.
Cannot do that.
The opposition is here. Officer, what the man do y'all? What the man do y'all, officer? As y'all could see, we live right now. I'll bet you.
So right there, you've gotten one clip, which is showing you police harassing young people. And this was at a funeral, you know. The young people were there at the funeral of 16-year-old Altaf. And because the young people were expressing how they feel while they were walking in that procession, they had no bottles, they had no sticks, they had no guns, but the young people were speaking out and they were expressing how they feel. And this is what the police were doing to them, only aggravating young people for the young people to react, and then they'll either shoot you or lock you up, and then they'll place some charge on you. But MP Sharma, you can go on.
Thanks again, MP. Let me just say, you know, coming from Councillor Hackett, there was so much to unpack, especially when it comes to police cover-up. One, young people being the prime targets and victim of this. And what you see as a continuation of a system that is broken based on a culture that continues to perpetuate the sort of behaviors that we see in our society. So I know this when it comes to only a few weeks ago, I was doing some research for the killings of the 1960s. And in referencing to the structure, which is the Guyana Police Force and policing in Guyana, the culture that you see that is there resembles one that we saw in the early 2000s, where I also had the dossier of 400 names of young, mostly young Afro-Guyanese men who were murdered and gunned down, and some being at the hands of the police, including my own cousin, Joel Duncan, who passed away in 2004. So this is an evident situation that continues to promote itself, one. But what Councillor said, it is not until he who feels it knows it. So Guyanese will take this for granted until it comes knocking at their door. And I can say this today, 18th of July coming. We had the police, instead of serving and protecting 14 years ago, came to this community and killed 3 young men. The Commission of Inquiry report said unjustifiably 3 unarmed citizens were gunned down by the Guyana Police Force. Last year, we had Ronaldo Peters, who we saw the police gunning down and then attempted to cover it up. And then subsequent to that, when young men choose to speak out on it, we had the killing of Kian Fojane, again, with no action. Even though the government invited the RSS in, to date, justice is still being denied. A few years ago, we had Orin Boston, we had Mr. Bacchus, Quindon Bacchus, and all of these incidents, the court have said that the police are at fault and compensation must be paid to the family because of the unjustifiable killings of these men. So what we are seeing, as you said, same thing, different, same thing, different day. It's a different day, but you have that same attitude. But what's most unfortunate about this, MP and Councillor, and to your audience, is that these individuals are made out to be the most wanted criminals for some of the crime in this country. And a crime is a crime. But when you look at the police pursuit of these type of criminal activities, as they call them, you ask yourselves, what's happening with Sugate? What's happening with all of these very criminal activity hundreds of pounds of kilos of cocaine being found, several dozen guns being found. And we see these sort of things in our society, and the sort of contrast in how the police approach them in itself is a reflection of where is it that we see service and protection being offered, and when we see police perpetuating this sort of attitude of disregard for the rights of especially those in the community young people. It is most unfortunate. So the culture, MP, is what allows this structure of a defunct and very corrupt police force. And this is not to label every police officer as that, but it is to say every police officer, however, is functioning in a very corrupt system.
And you know, MP Sham, I want to thank you for that, because as we look at police harassment and police brutality and extrajudicial killings, this has been ever of old under the PPP.
It's true.
Every time the PPP is around, we get Phantom Squad, we get Death Squad, we get all kinds of squads. We have the police, and not all the police, but we have the rogue police who are happy when the PPP is in government so that they can do all sorts of things.
But you know the thing is, MP, the culture of the people in authority, and you see this happens under the People's Progressive Party, because we have an opportunity to say what policing was like under the coalition. We have an opportunity to see what structures, even when it came to divisional commanders, you know, we broke commanders into different divisions. So Region 10 had its own division, whereas before those structures were inadequate. The actual top command structure of the police force, from the commissioner, all of those things were being reformed. All of those things were being looked at. Today, we have a retiree that is the commissioner. Today, we have senior police officers that are indicted, that are before the courts. So that culture that the PPP allows to permeate into the force creates a structure that protects it from its behavior and attitude, especially as it comes to policing in this country.
And as we speak more about police harassment, Jasmine, you want to say something? I'll allow you to go ahead if you wanted to.
Yes, allow me to add to what MP Sharma is saying. And the sad thing about it is that this is only going to continue to happen until we make a move, until we, the people of Guyana, stand up for ourselves. This is only going to continue to happen until we vote the PPP out. So listen to me. It is a case whereby the PPP continues to just put this pattern forth over and over and over. And until we do something about it, we'll be stuck in this, and then it's over for us. It is very unfortunate to see, you know, the very people that aren't supposed to be in these positions are the very ones who are being placed in these positions over and over and over. So I remember somebody reaching out to me a few weeks back, and the person said a police officer from the Providence police station would have asked their family for some money to settle a matter. And I asked her, did you guys pay the money? They said, we paid the money, but then the police is trying to switch the story around. So even after they paid the money, the individual was still sent to prison. And I was asking them what really transpired. So when I got down to it, is that the police, the officers are even taking bribery. And up to a day like today, I reached with the commander at Diamond, and nothing was done about it. So I want to remind us that we're going to continue to stay in this as long as we want to stay in it.
Certainly. You know, and I say Coretta is not on, but let me just say before she comes back on, you know, that's the point I say to Guyanese many times. You're speaking of an election, which is important, and it is when Guyanese will have to make the ultimate decision. But you know, one of the things I would say to Guyanese, as I said earlier, it is he who feels it knows it. And many times we take these behavior and actions for granted until it comes knocking at our doors. And I can say this to you, as we had the unfortunate murders of both Kian Fudgeny and Ronaldo Peters. I remember in this community last year, that neighborhood of Kansas City never thought that 13 years on, when you had police not taking into consideration indiscriminately shooting at citizens, will return to do the same, causing not only the death of Ian Fudgeny in protest of what happened to Ronaldo, but a few days after we had a Mr. Ollinsworth being shot and lost one of his eye. So that is what we have in terms, and again, the discriminatory approach to policing, it is based on how you see the national approach to government. So even in 2004, how police apply their policing tactic to communities also is one where government influences that approach based on the community, based on the demographic, and based on who police we are sending out after criminals. So you found out even in the Commission of Inquiry report that the police commanders are not in contact with the police commissioner, but they're in contact with the Home Affairs minister. You know, those are the things are in themselves political direction to the police to execute on political agenda.
It is true.
Well, you know, while you talk about that, it reminds me clearly of what transpired during the 2000s when we had some villages, Buxton especially, Agricola, Tiger Bay, All Boys Town, East Romvelt, West Romvelt, East the Penitents, Northeast the Penitents. Those were villages that the police were often in terrorizing young people. There was a time when mothers were scared to let their children, their boys especially, out of their sight. And by 6 o'clock, you had to be inside because you didn't want to wake up tomorrow morning and hear, oh, they found a body there, or they found another body there, or the police run in and the police shooting out. Or the police come and they're picking up your son because he was suspected to have been involved in some crime. And when residents in these areas come out there to protest, you saw the manner with which the police handled them. But then in like manner, later down, we recognized that during the coalition's term in office, it was a totally different story. I figure Jasmine has block out there now. It was a different story when we remember what the police went through on the west coast of Berbice. You remember what the police went through at Albion on the quarantine, where the police themselves had to run from residents.
I actually wanted to read an excerpt from exactly how that was handled. And not only they ran MP Coretta. I want to read in 2004, when Gail Teixeira was Minister of Home Affairs, she left Georgetown, and this is what she said. On that occasion, the then Minister of Home Affairs, Gail Teixeira, traveled to the area, which is to Wim and Tain in 2005, 25th of November. And at that area, met protesters, assured them that the allegations would be investigated. She stated then, we will set up an investigating committee to take evidence. And this is after those protesters would have burned police vehicles, burned buildings, and chased police officers out to the community. A minister went to mediate, to sit with them and explain what would be the course of action. In Linden, for example, we had police showing up with live rounds. In Linden, for example, we had snipers positioned on roof. In Linden, for example, we had the Commission of Inquiry saying 0.0 buckshot rounds were used, which is unauthorized to be used by the police force. In Linden, for example, a year ago, the RSS is to do an investigation, and to date cannot, even though that file is sitting on the desk of the DPP, give a report on the killing of Kian Fudgeny. So different community, different tactic, and different approach based on who you look like and who you are, Coretta.
So again, we're saying same things, different days, because of the communities in which they happen. And I remember vividly when there was this protest at Albion, and the folks there came out and they stormed the station. They broke the windows. The police had to be running for shelter, but no live round was fired. You know, and persons weren't injured. I remember again under the coalition government. So it's a case where, in one instance, because of where you're located, police has got to use restraint. But in other areas, police shoot live rounds and they shoot to kill. And so I'm saying to you, our viewers, these are just same things that are happening on different days. And we got to get to the bottom of this. We have to change it. We're the people who got the power in our hands, not the few politicians, not the few ministers, not the Minister of Home Affairs, not the Commissioner of Police. We have to change it. And you know, this morning I was reading a little article, a little quote that somebody put up there, and the person was saying, "We are electing thieves, and we expect them to behave like angels." We are electing thieves and we expect them to behave like angels. And the person went on further to say, what do you expect them to do when they get into office and they have monies available to them? Well, that's another part of the story that we talk about. But operator, I'd be happy if you share another clip with showing police harassment. And we also want to show the one with one of our famous Guyanese who served this country as well. But we'll continue until the operator has that. But again, what is changing when there's a different administration in place? And it's simple. The style of management is different. The style, okay, we'll watch this one. So this is a young man from Bartica who the police said they want for questioning. And the young man turned himself in, and they decided that they were going to take him out and take him with the boat. And this was what the police was doing to this young man in full view of everyone. This is the kind of treatment this young man was receiving. And you know, the police force, they wonder why citizens don't want to have any relationship with the police. But how can I, as a citizen, this is my brother, this is my son, this is my uncle, this is my cousin, and I'm seeing the police brutalizing him like this, and you're telling me that I must be friends with the police and I must give information to the police? When and where? Same things, different days. And to date, we have not heard of any investigation being launched where this rank was placed on close arrest, and he is going to be punished for this kind of behavior. Again, this is what irritates citizens. And when citizens react, then the police want to come like big bullies and do the kinds of foolishness. This has got to stop. We must weed these rogue police officers out of the force. The force has no place for them. They don't belong there. They'll belong to some farm somewhere where you can put them in cages. They don't belong here. And this is what they do. They use the blue and black.
Yeah, exactly. Intimidate
to harass people. It's the same thing in Cariveton, where young Altaf, 16 years old, is well known to the police because the police collected before $30,000 from young Altaf because they caught him with the bike, not having a license. And I want it to be clear, we don't advocate for our boys to be riding without license, especially if they're riding those bikes that requires license. We don't encourage that. But we are saying there is a different way to deal with these situations.
Certainly.
$30,000 they received from this young man, they collected from him to return his bike, his motorcycle. And then 2 weeks after that, they saw him again on the road, knowing fully well that he doesn't have a license. He had to pay $10,000. On the third occasion, when he saw them, he had no monies to pay them, and so he decided to ride, and they decided to speed behind him. And then it is alleged that they rammed him into a lamp post, and so he's dead. He's dead today. I remember Deputy Commissioner Ramnarine a few years ago highlighting to the ranks in the police force, I think it was at an officers' conference or something to that effect, and saying to them what should be done, how they should pursue.
We don't encourage a hot pursuit, particularly when the public danger is greater. That is to say, that in pursuit of an escaping felon, whether in a car or on foot, the public stands to be at great risk of immediate harm, destruction to property and other whatever in the circumstances. We don't encourage hot pursuit. We have insisted that even when a police vehicle has its sirens on and blazing, that it must be done in a circumspect manner with due regards to the rules of the road. That is to say, not because you have the siren on, it gives you license to bulldoze everything in your path, because you will be made to answer. So even when you have the siren on, you have to exercise due care and attention for other road users. Once the immediate danger to the public is imminent, got to be discontinued. Second, if the identity or you have information on the suspects, why pursue them and do a whole lot of collateral damage when you can do some intelligent-led policing under the long arm of the law? You know the long arm of the law? He'll get away now, but he'll run but can't hide. But you end up pursuing them, and a whole host of things happen after that. Economic loss, loss of life, a whole lot of things.
But, and you know, we've got to thank Deputy Commissioner. And I'm hoping that wisdom prevails, and that somebody will say, look, we need to bring Mr. Ramnarine in.
But MP,
put him there, just before you go, put him there as a consultant. But they like straight people. They like straight people.
But MP, the former commissioner is not reading out of his head. That's the thing. There are SOPs, there are operating procedures that the police should know how to respond to activities. They should know how to conduct themselves in line with their standard operating procedures, those SOPs. And outside of those SOPs, I can go back to several inquiries, whether it is the Linden Commission of Inquiry report, whether it was the Commission of Inquiry report into the Gadraj and the Phantom killings. All of the Commission of Inquiry report would have established where the police, including Linden's situation last year, have breached those procedures and have further called on what is needed at the institutional level so that police are brought up to date in understanding those SOPs and how they will be held accountable if they violate those SOPs. It also identifies area for strengthening in terms of police reforms. Those are things where the People's Progressive Party have never paid interest to ensure those SOPs work. I've never paid interest to ensure that those mechanisms within the police force are active, whether it is the application of those inquiries and the recommendations, even the institutions within the police force, whether it's the complaint authorities or the DPP office, those institutions themselves are defunct from being able to hold those police officers accountable. So the entire system is so broken that the People's Progressive Party is very satisfied with a broken system as we signed in 2000s. It's broken. We will contract the Raja Khans. We will contract the Phantom Killers. We will contract the death squads to do the policing for us. And in result, we end up with 400 young Black Afro-Guyanese losing their lives.
Well, Comrade
It's true.
Sharma, your counting is inaccurate because we've got to add the
406,
Orin
406.
Boston, we got to add the Quindon Bacchus, we got to
Yes.
add Fortuné, we got to add
Yes.
Titus,
It's true.
we got to add the Three Linden Martyrs, we got to add the Henry Boy, we got to add the Henry Boys, we got to add Harish Singh, and so many others. So it's more than just 400. And so the 2000s then will have their share, and
Same
the
thing.
latter 2000 will have their share coming down to 2019 and 18 and well, not between the 2015 to 2020 period, but anytime after then.
It's true.
Same
You
thing,
know?
different day.
Same thing, different days.
Right.
And I heard Deputy Commissioner spoke about the sirens. You know, today is everybody and their mother and their grandmother. Once you belong and you have a contact with the PPP, you're going going down the road with sirens. Everything going all right. As soon as you reach into a little traffic jam, is the big siren coming on. No siren there all the time. The big siren on, and you're bullying your way through the traffic, even when the traffic is so tight that there's no space for you. You're bullying your way through the traffic. And you know, when Deputy Commissioner spoke about once pursuing citizens, suspects is going to bring harm to lives and limb, you need to back off. We don't see the police doing that. And you know, I want to go right back to Altaf. Sorry. The road that the police was chasing him on is one of the little concrete strips that the PPP like to build in all these communities, is a concrete strip. And so you could understand what was happening there on that concrete strip when Altaf was going there. He was trying to drive in the corner, because being in the corner for him is protecting himself from the police van hitting him. And that is what they did. They went into the corner, and that's how they hit him. And so it's clear. But to date, all we are hearing is that this young man died as a result of an accident. Yes, it was an accident, but who caused the accident?
Correct. Who was behind the death?
Who caused the accident? And so no one is being held accountable as yet for that young man's death. Guyanese, we got to step the pace up.
It's
Too
true.
long we have been talking. We got to step the pace up. While operator is going to be looking for this video with the accident, I want to say to us, these sirens, I don't know why everybody and their grandmother think that they could put on sirens. Everywhere you turn, you see a police vehicle, not a police vehicle, a minister's vehicle. And while we're talking about ministers, I want to say, Onage, send in your resignation, because you're not making it here. I'm saying that all the time. You're not making it. These people set you up to fail you. All of these things are happening, and not a word coming from the Minister of Home Affairs on these things. Not a word from her. All of these issues, lives are lost senselessly, but nothing from Onage. But you know why Onage can't speak? Because Onage got black flags on her too. So she can't speak because it is alleged that Onage's son was involved in accidents. Onage's son drives government vehicle and run it overboard. And to date, he has not yet faced the courts. To date, we have not heard anything. To date, we have not seen any statement coming from the Minister of Home Affairs with regards to the vehicle, the government vehicle that her son was driving. Operator, it's the clip with the gray car, if you find that one. To date, we have not heard anything about those two accidents that is alleged that the Minister of Home Affairs' son was involved in. One where the families came out just the other day to say their relative died in that minibus, that the minister's son's vehicle, a black Volkswagen, a black SUV Volkswagen, crashed into the minibus and a woman died in that accident. To date, not a word from the Minister of Home Affairs. So it's like the law is for some people, but the law is not for other people.
Others, it's true.
Operator, as soon as you find that video, let that clip, let's see it. We want you to see, viewers, how these people who have sirens on their vehicles, how they operate. How they operate. They're bigger than the law. They're bigger than everybody. When it's a concrete strip, or it's a 2-lane road, or a 4-lane road, they drive because they have a siren on their vehicles. And it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting.
Your call for resignation is justifiable, MP. And it is not, people may think it's political. I believe persons had an opportunity to see the performance of the minister. You and I too in Parliament. It was the most miserable performance in terms of accounting to this nation of how we're going to see policing and budgeting and the type of policies in place for policing for this 2026. And the minister was absolutely out of our depth to even explain what is our task and what she intends to do. And we are speaking of the institution, one of which she is in charge of as Home Minister. But then we can look nationally of the criminality, of the crime, of just the culture of what Guyana is. And we have a minister that sits above it. And you just said that when our own family probably would be involved in matters like this, it is natural for them to just hide behind their authority and cover these things up. You look at this country, MP and council, and to your audience, it is most frightening as a citizen to live in Guyana if you're not protected by some level of power, position of power. And the minister is demonstrating that even in our own personal action and our capacity as minister based on what we see nationally.
It's true. I was just about to ask, who is protecting the citizens of Guyana? What about the citizens of Guyana who doesn't have anybody to protect them? Because I was looking at the news back and forth for the past few months as well, ever since Minister Onij would have sworn in as the Minister of Home Affairs. And I was saying to myself, everything that is being done makes no sense to me. I even went as far as to discussing with some of our regional councillors the depths that we're in right now. This is a crisis, and Onij, the country is now becoming, it is now coming to such a place where we gotta really think about the poem, This is the Dark Time I Love, because Guyana is getting darker and darker with Onij being the Minister of Home Affairs.
And so while operator is searching for that clip, we have to move on. Just yesterday we saw $71 million worth of cannabis, 3 pistols, and about 18 rounds of 9mm ammunition being found in a barrel that came from the US. Not forgetting, we had 33 AK-47s on 2 occasions. One was 23, one was 10. And then we had the 10 missing guns from Coven John Police Station.
Yeah.
And ever so often they're finding guns. Are we to understand that there's some army being set up parallel to the Guyana Defense Force, or maybe a police force being set up? Because we are seeing these things happening, MP Sharma.
No,
Go right ahead.
MP, let me say this. And you are not speculating out of hysteria. It is important for the public to appreciate where we now find ourselves, where we have to do this, because information is not coming from the government, where we must do this in our own interest and our own survival and protection. You have just spoken about guns in this country. I made the point on my Facebook post. There was a time in the past, if you were found with an AK-47, you were made infamous and notorious. Just one. We are finding them by the dozens now. And we are not being updated on where the criminal charges are, where are the perpetrators, what is this investigation about. We have been told that this is an internationally linked situation, of where we have paramilitary people in this country. Now, what brings more frightening reality to Guyanese about this is that in 1 year, we had two terrorists attacks.
One
One in
year.
Rumpel, in Rumpel, we had where three separate occurrences in one night of terrorists, and they were all foreign linked people. Now you have guns by the dozens being uncovered, again, foreign linked, and Guyana and Guyanese are none the wiser of the danger within which we find ourselves now. And we have a home minister who is absolutely outside of our league and totally clueless about how to interact with the public on this very grave situation that we find ourselves in. But more importantly, how to ensure that we are satisfied that the government is taking every step possible to protect Guyanese from where we've already witnessed terrorists' activity and also uncovering massive amount of guns.
It is quite alarming and frightening because the first aspect of fear is where you're hearing several persons have been arrested. And then next week, you wouldn't hear anything else about that. Or you're going to hear like what happened when there were wanted bulletins put out. For one famous one, Randy Jagdio. This was the young man who became famous when he rode his CBR bike out of the court. You remember after he was charged for killing his friend, the young man, they said he pumped 16 bullets into. He rode out of the court that day. I don't know how he knew that he would have been freed that day. Maybe he knew that and his relatives knew that. So they brought his CBR bike to court and the man drove off. And then his name has been called in as a suspect with the 23 that they found over the river on the west side. And the man was set on $1 million bail. And when you find somebody with a 9mm gun, depending on who you are or who you look like, you're being remanded and remanded and remanded.
It's true.
Same things, different days. Same thing, different days, different people, different hair texture, different connections.
Different communities.
These people, you have to wake up because we're finding too many guns in this country. You know, I remember under the coalition government, Home Affairs Minister then, Kemraj, they had an amnesty out there and lots of guns were turned in. Why aren't we having an amnesty now? Is it because we are hoping to set up, and I'm saying it again, a parallel Guyana Defense Force or a parallel Guyana Police Force? Or maybe are we going to establish a new National Service Corps? Just maybe.
But you know, you keep saying maybe. The history of giving us what you're saying to be. When Roger Khan came out with the cache of arms found at Good Hope and the very sophisticated piece of equipment to triangulate calls and things like that, it's not a maybe. It is a thing that this government, and we can go as far back as the 60s, we can go within the 2000s, when we had a paramilitary phantom squad, as Dr. Luncheon had claimed them to be. So we are not away from a government without the institutional understanding of how to create these sort of environments, one, and secondly, how to ensure that they armed alternative groups outside of those statutory agencies such as the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force. So what we are seeing now, based on this reluctance to aggressively update the public and pursue whether these terrorist acts or also these large findings of ammunition and guns, And not to take away the narco trafficking, because it's all linked in terms of the people involved and how they're resourcing these activities. But what you hear one day is a large fine, and the next day, much quiet.
It's
Well,
true.
but go right ahead, Cassie. Go right ahead if you.
No, I was just saying it's true. I was in addition to what he was saying, it's true.
Good. Operator, you're going to show, we are going to have those clips so that the public can see, because quite a lot of persons don't read the newspapers. And yes, while we have quite a lot of persons on Facebook and so on, we still have quite a lot of persons who are not on Facebook. So they look forward to these programs. And so we would want to show them that we're not just saying things, but we want them to see that what we are saying is true. We don't cover up anything, and we don't make excuses. We put the facts right out there. Right out there, we put the facts. So operator is going to show us those clips with this find that we have had. And there's a lot of things that's come in barrels, So we're having guns. I remember when Minister Indra Chandra Paul, when she was minister, MP Sharma, you would remember that. And the whole big issue broke out there with the 2 homes that she built at Turkine. And she said, oh, my family sent monies, our family sent monies for us in barrels. The monies used to come in barrels. So it's a long time, things coming in barrels, all kind of things coming in barrels. Same day, different things, lots of things coming in barrels, and we're covering up. We cover down the corruption. We're covering down the fear that we want to drive into people. And so we've got to keep setting the pace and letting our Guyanese people know that this is what is being encouraged under this regime. This is what they're encouraging under this regime. And the time has come for us to say, as Cassie said, enough is enough. We don't want it anymore. And we will do what is necessary to ensure that we get what we want. Guyana we must be free. We must have peace. People here must feel safe to walk the streets of Georgia. And the thing is, MP Sharma, they are promoting tourism to this large extent. Yes, this is defined here. They're promoting tourism to this large extent. And here is it. You're finding all of these weapons. Would tourists want to come to our country? Would tourists want to come to our country when you're finding all of these weapons in the streets? I don't think so.
But MP, again, more tourists are guided by advisory. And for last year, we had the advisory by the U.S. State Department advising Americans on how to conduct themselves in Guyana. And we are still on that alert level in Guyana, even in 2026, with reference to how we are perceived in terms of fighting crime and as a country, and how we are perceived as a criminal enterprise in many ways. So it is not only what they can read, is also what is advised to them by their respective embassies. And it's unfortunate that in this very rich society that we have now economically, and with so much growth, that we are not seeing the sort of development trickling into the upliftment of the Guyana police force, the improvement of the fighting of crime in terms of our crime agencies. And these coercive agencies, instead of being used to ensure that they serve and protect, we come back to that very first point that we were raising earlier, which we are harassing young people, we are harassing certain communities, and the police is more politically directed and motivated to fight crime rather than based on the serve and protect, which they have all asked, in fact, swore to uphold.
And so while we're talking about the gun fines that we're having, I want it to be noted that it seems, well, it doesn't seem, we are having the return of execution style murders. You recognize in 1 week, we had 3 on the East Coast. 1 week, 3 young men were gunned down on the East Coast in 1 week. So if we're having that happening in 1 week in one village, then it might catch over to another village. And we have to be concerned about these things. We have to be concerned about these guns that are in the streets. And we have to be concerned that the police, rather than going out there, like former deputy commissioner said, going out there and doing your intelligence work, they prefer to harass innocent citizens rather
And
than
then,
going out there to find out where these guns are coming from, who would have been involved in these execution style killings. You prefer to be on the road and harass drivers on the road. You're stopping them for tint. You're stopping them for this. You're stopping them for that. Offenses that are ticketed offenses. You have them parked on the road for long periods because you're hoping that they can pass a granger or two to you because you got backs on to pay for the day. You know, these police ranks, whether you're constable or corporal or lance corporal or sergeant or inspector or deputy chief or deputy commissioner, they got box hand that they're throwing every day. Sometimes the box hands are larger than are sometimes half the salaries that they are receiving, but they're throwing box hand every day. And so to throw box hand every day, you got to find a way of getting the monies. And these are the people that we got to get out of. Operator, I'm hoping that you'll be able to find for us that clip with Poor People Governor while we're talking. And so we have to be concerned about these execution style murders that have been happening. But while we're looking at that, my folks, something struck me just the other day. We have just seen, we hear about these planes that are landing in the interior and they're finding guns. We hear about half-burnt plane that they are finding. But just the other day, we heard about this helicopter that touched down in Region 1. And it's cause for concern. And what is most concerning is the fact that we heard that the Kanu boss, James Singh, gave permission for that helicopter to land there because he said that they were experiencing bad weather. I am trying to figure out whether James Singh has that authority to grant permission for an aircraft to touch down, or whether that authority ought to come from the civil aviation. Help me, my friend.
You know, the thing is, I remember the similar situation in Region 1. And when we had the operations, many times that are taking place in this country, certain law enforcement agencies are excluded because it is so compromised within these agencies that this is allowed to happen. And you're right, anything within the airspace of this country belongs to the Civil Aviation Authority. And to think that this flight is emerging from Colombia, of all places, and is being allowed to land in a village isolated and remote by the Kanu Ed, it's in itself means for investigation. And what we had was the most ridiculous explanation coming from an officer with no authority to allow open airspace to be used by foreign aircraft. So you're right. What is happening in terms of the investigation? But you spoke just now about extrajudicial killings, and I just want to quickly mention on that, because you see the trend of what we see with those three young men on the return of the People's Progressive Party in 2020, less than a year after. We had almost just a few yards away from the president's residence, the gunning down of paper shards. And now you see this sort of confusion emerging when we all thought it was a closed case by the police, who said so before, of can't find this, of exonerated certain people in that process, and where we see that behavior. So the extrajudicial taking care of business outside of the police and the killing of citizens is something on return of this government. We saw a very high profile one, and it continues to plague us even today. Right now, it remains a very high profile situation, but it also sets the trend of a continuation of what this program is. It's a different day, but it's the same thing we are seeing. Same thing we are seeing. So the issue with the James Singh matter, that explanation, as we come back to that, it is most absurd, it is most inadequate, and it requires further investigation.
You know, and to date, we've not heard anything again from the Minister of Home Affairs.
Certainly.
You've not heard anything that says we have to pull this guy. Operator, could you put up Mr. Singh on the screen? You've not heard anything that they've pulled him in for questioning to find out from him, how did he know that this craft was coming? Why wasn't other persons or the correct entity involved in it? And so it leaves one to wonder whether they had things to drop off there, and maybe things had to drop off there and somebody had to collect it for James Singh, or James Singh went to collect it, or so. It leaves lots and lots of questions in people's mind. And I remember, MP, if you would remember, Councillor, I remember there was a report there, breaking news, that the life of this same young man, James Singh, was threatened, and there was some bounty on his head. He made a report. He alarmed the nation. And so one has to wonder right now whether same things are happening on different days, and things didn't go right. And so that's why there was a bounty somewhere. Guyana, we got to get it right. I remember this was the very young man who was sent home by the coalition government for infraction. This very young man. And then on the return of the PPP, they brought him back. So again, I have to agree with this person who said, we are electing thieves and we expect them to behave like angels. You can't elect thieves and don't expect that the thieves can bring the soldiers. Like when we read what is in the Bible, we read that even the devil had his angels and he was creating a side army. So, you know, when these things happen, you have to put the pieces together, because sometimes when the puzzle come out, parts are missing, but now we're getting the pieces together. So I want to call on not only the Minister of Home Affairs, but I want to call on the President to launch an investigation. I mean, we get tired of hearing we can launch an investigation, and an investigation has been launched, but we want to hear why, or who gave permission to James Singh to give approval for that craft to land there. If there wasn't somewhere else, Mabaruma got the airstrip.
Correct.
Why did the craft have to go till where it went to land? We had bad weather in Guyana, so that's why it came here to land. Why didn't go land in Venezuela?
You will.
Same things, different days. Guys, y'all better wake up. Y'all better wake up, because cat ain't gonna only eat your dinner. Cat will carry away the plate, the cup, and the spoon, and you'll be left with nothing.
But it's unfortunate that we have to wait until the Americans drop sanctions on some of these officials. You know, you saw the commander of Region 1 being sanctioned. You saw some key police representatives being identified. You hear of further indictments to be released against senior officials. That sort of understanding is in itself where Guyanese must then recognize that only when you had a change of government we saw accountability in these institutions, and only foreign governments are prepared to hold these institutions accountable, except the PPP government, who, as we said before, continues the perpetuating of this sort of behavior as it benefits their type of environment, which is one filled with corruption and this sort of criminality that we are seeing. It's a very criminal government that we have in place right now, Sister Coretta. Very. The Sioux Gate in itself, from the Vice News to, you know, and the thing is, in Guyana, and I saw people making lightly the President Farm matter, and I know we'll discuss that sometime, but even though people are acquiring resources that are outside of the standard of the procedure, outside of the process, outside of the way to do it, which in itself is wrong. It's criminal. Same criminal we run the 10,000 gentlemen down for. But what we see is being accepted. You know, I saw our good friend James Bond making lightly these things. So Calypso, it's a, you know, so my point is, we are prepared to make lightly these sort of criminal behavior. You know, we recognize them and glorify them as the thing to do. But I say this to Guyanese every time. He who feels it knows it. It is only when it comes at the expense of you, then you will recognize that this is a pervasive situation that is affecting many Guyanese. And until all Guyanese are consumed, then we will understand that, you know, it is the same thing happening on different day.
Right.
Well,
Before you go on.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Before you go on, MP, I was I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, what if we continue to put a government like this in power, a government who lacks accountability? And to my fellow Guyanese, allow me to say this: the government does not care about you, because I am looking at it this way. We see over and over, when things are being done, the pattern continues, the cycle goes on. And the Minister of Home Affairs, the MP, would have stated just now, she made mention, we don't hear anything from you. Every time something happens, we hear nothing. There's no statement about how you're going to go ahead and deal with issues, or how you're going to address, or what approach you're going to take. Every time something happens, we hear about an investigation will be able to be launched, and then there's no investigation being launched. We don't even know what happens in the end. We don't even hear of the outcome or anything of the sort. And you know, the member of parliament, Mr. Sharma, just would have stated, you know, who feels it knows it. And Guyanese, believe me, we're all feeling it. Some of us would have felt it. And if we continue to put these people who lacks accountability in the position, they will harm us. And sooner than later, everybody in Guyana is going to be feeling it. So now we got to remember that the power lies in our hands, and we got to continue to hold these people accountable, or else everybody's going to be feeling it. Thank you, MP.
And thanks, Kathy. But I just want to elaborate a little more on this one. We spoke about the Paper Shorts murder, and that it has been reopened. But I am still waiting to hear about Courtney Crummy Wing. I am waiting to hear about that one. When are we going to start that one? You know?
But again, we lack accountability.
Ronald Waddle, that was shot many, many years ago.
Still nothing.
Sean Himes came out and he spoke out, and he talked about the entire operation. To date, no one has been held accountable for his murder.
Correct.
We're still waiting to hear who is going to be held for Adriana Young's murder.
As the death squad in an interview aired on HGPTV Nightly News, stated that he was hired to kill Waddle, but said that two policemen, including a senior cop, beat him to the task. Hines, a former policeman, related that he was given the contract to carry out the hit on Waddle, but like crimes of that nature, other persons were also hired, and it was all about who would get the job done first. He said that, on the day, he waited outside of Waddle's home in Sobrianville for the perfect opportunity to get the job done. However, the information that he had gotten was that Waddle was out and that he was to carry out the task when he returned home. However, Waddle was in his home and he was preparing to leave his yard when he was shot and killed. He said that, even though there was a Phantom and Death Squad in operation, there could have been outside killers, but he insisted that a tall policeman killed Waddle back in 2000.
You see, and this is not what we're making up. This is facts. These are facts from the mouths of the horses. So people like Anand Budram who want to talk foolishness, these are facts. We don't make these up, you know, and it's disgusting when we think some people did, but they have no sense whatsoever. None. Maybe he went to the University of Iflat. So
Well,
they come on social media when you put things there. They come there with all the distractions, just like James Bond. And we know James was pressured into subjection. We know that.
Right.
And that's a fact. He was pressured into subjection. So with him coming out and making light of it, but I'm happy that Miss Kimon Gentle responded to him, and so many others responded with a calypso too. And it is so disgusting. Again, you think that some people are big and they have sense, but they have no sense.
None.
James Bond is another one.
You see, MP, the matter with the Waddle and the Sean Hines matter is not one we need to speculate. This was a very well detailed trial that was conducted in the courts of America. And the informants and those who stood as witnesses gave detailed information. They even mentioned Leslie Ramsamy was hired to ensure that the man don't breathe when he reached the hospital. I am not saying this. This came out in a court of law with evidence and confession as we had and no investigation. So I'll take the vice president up on his offer. When they returned in 2020, he said that they will investigate the crimes of the 2000. I think he was trying to bluff the Guyanese people, but I want to hold him bluff and said, well, conduct the investigations. Let us see, because in those killings, you have one of your own minister who was murdered. And not only his family, but the entire Guyanese public would want to bring some type of resolution and some closure to these matters. And he forms part of that 467 persons within that very troubled period. So it is not 1, 2, 3, not even 1, 2, 300. It is 400 plus that is there to be investigated, and in itself, clues, evidence, witnesses came forward, and this government, under whose watch these terrible and atrocious acts were committed, is in government and still cannot. And we having those repeat of executions starting when they return with paper shards, and we see continuing, as you said, with those 3 brothers in the Berbice area.
And you know, to add to this, we must remind our viewers that it was that very Leslie Ramsamy who ordered
the spy equipment.
The spy equipment. Ordered the purchase of the spy equipment. That very minister. So we understand when the police behave the way they behave is because we got a certain ropes right up at the top there. We had the revelation by Vice News. To date, you can't hear anything about Sue, whether Sue has been sued, and whether Sue will face a court of law in Guyana. Nothing, you can't hear about it. We hear about all the gold smuggling. We hear about the lands being sold. We hear about all of these things. We also heard about the ordinary officer at the Ministry of Natural Resources. You remember when he signed off that 11 million?
Up to today, nothing was done.
Who gave him the authority? And you know what we heard? Oh, he was suspended for 1 month. Those monies could have paid teachers, nurses, policemen,
the essential workers. Correct.
Who gave him the authority to sign off on that? That minister should have been asked to resign as well. But it didn't happen because everybody got secret for everybody. And that's why we got ministers selling chocolates, and they could buy mansions cash in the US. They could build a lot of mansions here. They could have a whole lot of luxury vehicles and build apartments too.
Or as the president, we can take out 2 billion bank loans.
And then we have some other ministers. Don't forget Mustafa. Mustafa said he used the savings and loans. So all of them could get loans. But regular teachers can't afford the same loans that they could afford or have access to smaller loans. Could you imagine? Teachers are having access to duty-free concessions and they can't buy it.
True.
They can't buy a 1500 cc or 1300 cc car. They can't buy it, and they've been working all their lives. And some people just turned minister for 5 years and they got mansions. Some of them, their sons ain't work one day yet in their life, according to Azardine Mohammed, but they own mansions and luxury vehicles. And we're hearing about these savings and these savings. And they're not 40 years yet. And they're savings and they're savings. I want to own or to work, to be able to work in that chocolate factory. Suzanne Rodriguez, link me up by the chocolate factory, girl. I want to sell some of them chocolates. I don't know if you'll be selling nighttime, daytime. You're selling at Movie Town. You're selling at Amazonia Mall. You're selling in Essequibo. You're selling by the stadium in Essequibo. I don't know, but you got to link me with that. And it just goes to show how these people think. That they feel the Guyanese people big, and we in that sense, we stupid. Well, the vice president is It is disgusting, very disgusting. But we've got to move on. But I want to say before we move on from there, that while we are opening cases, I don't know if you open, and let me say, this government doesn't do anything willy-nilly. Anything you see they do, it's well calculated. So the opening of Paper Shorts case, while we want the families to bring closure, for the families, the same way you're opening that case, reopen Ronald Waddle, reopen Adriana, reopen Courtney Crummy Wing, reopen Fortuné, reopen Peters, reopen the Henry boys, because we know the nonsense when they bring about the Henry boys. It's not them two boys. We know that.
It's true.
And all the other killings, y'all, MP, you remember Kazarki? Councilor Beaton, too young to know that. You remember Kazarki? We want to know how Kazarki died too.
Yes.
We want to know how the famous 5 that got out of prison, that broke out of prison, we want to know how they died too. Imagine they were renting a house right next to the Minister of Home Affairs then. And the Minister of Home Affairs, Ronald Badrach, then he himself didn't know, or he claimed to not know, that there were 5 bandits living right next door to him. What? He didn't see a movement? He didn't observe that they got strange people in there? Hi. Guyanese people, let me say to you, again, if you don't hear, you will feel. And choices have consequences. And not only you will have to face the consequences, but your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandsons and your entire generation will face the consequences. Imagine we got so much monies here, MP Sharma. We might as well do away with the oil. Do away with it. Shut it down. Because with all the monies we're getting from the oil, we still poor.
Chinese
Cost of living still high.
$600.
Cost of living still high.
You know, MP, it seems to some people when they will look at programs like these, but you're complaining what you're doing. I think persons need to first appreciate awareness, because we are so many times not conscious. We may know, but there's a difference between knowledge and understanding. When you hold a dossier this size, you look at the amount of pages here. Every page got names, and all these are names. We can flip the pages as much as we want. And it's good to show people, because as you flip, you see all these are names. Ronald Waddle name is here, and these are people. It is not just a statistical...
Shaka Blair's name is there as well.
MP, it is not just a statistical number. These are people. These are families are still looking for justice. Look the pages. Not single one of these people, the killers, have been found, or their families have received any type of justice. And this is a time gone by, but it is a situation that continues even up to now. And it all ties in. It is not a complaining, it is an awareness so that you appreciate. Now, what to be done? It is not these only investigations we are calling for, because these investigations have unearthed reports. It is not only these reports we are asking for, because in these reports have recommendations. What we are asking for is the public to appreciate when we call on you, because as we said, he who feels it knows it. It is for us all to take action unless we're all consumed, like we can see this file. And the file in this new government and this new PPP administration is already building, and it started from paper shards.
But MP and Councillor, we've got so much to discuss, and I notice our time is going.
Yes.
But we have to talk about this one. I woke up this morning and I saw the appointment of a chief magistrate, and I remembered. I felt a sense of joy, but I didn't read the article to see what was happening. Mind you, I hold no brief for these two young women. I don't even know them, but I've seen their work over the years. And it brought some joy to me, because when I saw chief magistrate, I remember then when my very aunt, Claudette Bennett, served as chief magistrate, and I used to go there in the afternoons when I get off from CPC, jump off the bus at Turkine at the bus park there, the East Coast bus park, and then I walked straight down there to the magistrate's court. So it brought back some memories to me. It kind of juggled me when I saw chief magistrate. But I'm here seeing that the person we had there acting as chief magistrate was not the person who was confirmed as the chief magistrate. And so right away, it brought me right away to the situation that we have right now with the teachers and the appointments that would have been given to teachers, where we have teachers appealing some of those appointments that they have seen in the preliminary list. Now, my thing is, one, if you were chosen to act, it means that you had to have been at a certain level. You can't bring a regular teacher. Let me use the teaching sector. You can't bring a teacher who just got out of college and put her to act.
It's true.
Except it's a case where that it's a school way out in the hinterland, and that teacher is the most senior teacher. But in this scenario, if we look at what's happening at Mackenzie High, we can't use a teacher who just came out of college to act, because there are a series of teachers higher than her at different levels. So we saw Magistrate Faith McCusty acting there, and she would have been acting for a while. But now we are seeing Magistrate Judy Latchman, who was appointed chief magistrate. Again, I want to congratulate her on her appointment, but at the same time, we have to ask the questions. How? Why?
Correct.
And if there has been infractions with the person who has been acting, then it needs to be made public.
It's true.
That's one. Two, is it a case where Magistrate Faith McGusty, who has been acting, would have said to them, look, when they they probably called her in and said, look, we are going to appoint you as chief magistrate. And she said to them, no, I don't want to go there. Y'all appoint, I will take being superseded. So y'all put the person who's under me. Is it that the case? If that's the case, then the public needs to know. But until such time, we will continue to say it is favor, and it is friends, and it is families, and it is favorites, because you are giving us, in the absence of information, speculation will occur. And so I am trying to figure out, MP and Council, is it because of this whole thing with the reopening of the paper shorts case? Is it that you now want to transfer that elections fraud case, as they term it, over to this magistrate, the chief magistrate? What is the reason? You know what I'm talking about? Guyanese, we big and we have sense, so we got to figure things out, because it's not being said to us. What's the secrecy? And then we get a flimsy explanation, MP Sharma. I'm sure you got to tell our viewers.
This is concerning the magistrate appointment, but I want to go, before I come to that Guyanese, again, separation of power is very, very important MP
Oh,
and
yeah.
council and to the public.
True.
And when we have a government that can manipulate the judiciary, which should be a supreme body to adjudicate and to interpret our laws,
Then
even
there's
for
no
those in authority in the executive branch that they themselves are violating and may violate those laws, then it is dangerous to the public when we see these sorts of appointment. Not only the overlooking of Chief Magistrate Acting Faith Magusti, but when we saw earlier with the issue with the appointment of the Chief Justice and the situation with the Chancellor, and how we had those two women on pause for so many years, and at the same time we now have an appointment in one of our sister Caribbean country of one of the individuals that were overlooked. So this government, not only for the supremacy of the judiciary and what it should represent, of in essence manipulated and violated that, and not only for what it does in terms of those officers in the system by making personal appointments, but we see even with the stacking of the court with these judges. Recently, one of those who were appointed was criminally charged for, in essence, breaching, and we have that individual now becoming appointed as a judge a couple of weeks ago. So this appointment by Ms. Latchman over Ms. Magusti in itself, and we know as those cases are unfolding, we know currently the leader of the opposition is before Ms. Latchman on the issue of the extradition matter. And we also see this paper shards killing that is now opening up. And as one person said, it was never closed, it just went cold. Well, it's now found some heat, and we see where this sort of movement within the judiciary again. This is not an appointment that transpired this week. As far as the news is saying, Ms. Latchman appointment was last year. That is what they want us to believe. It is only now being announced. And we must ask ourselves, why only now, with the emergence of this cold case receiving some heat, and at the same time, Ms. Latchman is standing as the adjudicator and magistrate over the extradition case itself. It's very, very troubling, especially when we have a government that have demonstrated it is not in the business of respecting the separation of power and allowing the judiciary to be independent, as in any democratic society that should allow such functions to work.
Right.
This is so it is so disgusting. And that in itself would bring about a kind of rift in between colleagues. I have been there, and I have been your supervisor, and now, and you know, coming out of this recent promotions that we've seen coming on the preliminary list, several teachers have complained, and we've advised them on what the steps that they should take. But a teacher saw me and she cried.
Yes.
You know why? She said, this young lady who is going to be heading my school, I taught her. So she was the second in charge, and she was acting. And the young lady who's coming to head the school now, she taught that young lady.
And before you go on,
could you imagine that? Go ahead.
I was looking at it too, even at Covent Garden Secondary. I mean, we had so many persons acting as HM, we had so many persons acting as the DHM, and today what we're seeing at the Covent Garden Secondary School is new persons, new faces, much younger people, you know, and it is quite troubling. And even to see that, you know, Miss Latchman has been appointed as the chief magistrate, I'm happy with the appointment. But again, the question still stands: what happens to the persons who were acting? The thing is, we need accountability, and that is what the government fails to give Guyanese citizens. And we need to continue pressing for it, because we're going to continue seeing the friends, families, and being favored, and then we're going to be stuck at the bottom all of the time, very clueless.
And you know, again, the same things
Different days.
days. Operator is going to show us a community center and a pavilion that has been built. And when you look at the sum that was awarded for the building of that pavilion, I mean, they could have given me and you the job. They could have given MP Sharma the job. How is it that we are awarding these contracts, these huge contracts, and we're not getting our money's worth? How are these things happening and no one is held accountable? Therefore, we ought to speculate, MP Sharma, when we have all of these huge contracts being awarded, and when we look at what is the output that we get. You're getting work for money. You're not getting work for money. And go ahead.
You know, MP, as you said, Hugh feels it, knows it, it comes back to the community. I served as regional chairman, I served as mayor. And having the opportunity to interact with community, you see the value of a community center. You see the value and the importance of a particular stand that should have the necessary amenities. You know, you build something, and I remember when the coalition was there, we had the Ministry of Communities, because it was more than housing. It was how you complement housing with all of the infrastructure necessary and the amenities that are important to build the foundation of a community, including proper recreational facilities, including in those facilities to have good pavilions, stands, and areas for people to recreate and to congregate. Those things are absent, MP, because people are not in their communities. They're not in a Christianburg, for example. They're not in a West Watuka, for example. They're not in these communities where they can appreciate so many thousands of young people and adults who use these facilities daily on a weekend, how it helps to develop our athletes in those communities, how it helps to keep our young people actively engaged and not idle in any way. These things, if they don't have lights in these facilities at 6 in the evening, those young men are off the ball field and doing some very unnecessary things. So this 17 million pavilion that they're giving, and you see, look at the village where it is. These things are done to our Amerindian brothers and sisters. These things are done to the interland communities because, again, I can't help using the coalition philosophical approach to bridging the divide. This government does not understand bridging the divide. This government stole from the coalition, putting people first in its manifesto and brought it forward in their budget presentation. But you can see the absence when you see structures like these. You can see the absence when you see their policies of putting people first. This certainly does not put the people in that village and villages across this country and communities across this country first when you have that sort of display for them.
And you know, and the people are so shameless with what they do. They are so very shameless. And they just don't care. They just don't care what you say. And until persons are being held accountable for the nonsense that they do in communities, it will not stop. And therefore, putting this there, that stand there, the ministers within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture must be made to answer. Or an investigation must be launched. You don't do foolishness around the place because these monies don't belong to you. These monies don't belong to you. And is it because these are our indigenous brothers and sisters who live in these communities, you feel you could give them anything?
Give them something.
The respect you have for our people?
We give them something.
And you know, I look at it when they go out there to do their campaigning, especially in some of our indigenous groups. You know what they do out there in the forerun to their campaign? They go out there with a whole lot of rum to give to our indigenous brothers and sisters to drink. And these are the people who talk about their care. These rascals. And you got people like Priya and Vindy and Sonia and the whole pack of them who don't say anything about it.
It's true.
In these communities, there is no water. And you know what is their solution to it? Give them black tanks.
MP, remember the Minister of Amerindian Affairs in Parliament was saying that, these people like living like that, in essence, while she lives in a very exclusive mansion in the capital, she is more encouraged to say that giving them something is better than saying to them, and let me give you something better. That is more where we see this government in terms of its focus. And, we went to Madhya, we went to Letem. And in these villages, you hear those complain. Madhya is a town that is run by the PPP, both the regional administration and the municipality. And the complaints are many in terms of how you see them organizing community, in terms of how they've organized the center, in terms of how they've placed the recreational facilities. It is most atrocious, the condition of what we saw when we went into Madi in terms of the community and the aesthetics, the play field. They've actually stored materials for construction and building on the people play field instead of developing the play field in Madhya for those residents to have good recreation. If you see sandstone and laterite, no lights, in a very well put together area done by the coalition, have now become a construction zone turned by this government in the Madhya.
It is disgusting. I'm trying to get this video for us to play this video, because it is important that we show the people what these people do all around the place. I'll get it for us to play. But as we go on, we talk about this community, this pavilion, $17 million. You remember was it the toilet or the guard hut that we had just recently? We had another one just recently.
The guard hut.
It is disgusting. But as we go on, we have to talk about it. While we talk about that, we must talk about the deplorable conditions of the roads that our Amerindian brothers and sisters have to traverse because they can't afford they can't afford to buy a plane ticket to travel from Lethem to Georgetown.
But Coretta, MP, this is not a today's story. I said to you when the coalition was there, the effort to ensure that we bridge the divide was there because we saw people, right now, those interior roads have so deteriorated. And as the shadow MP for natural resources, I can say to you that because the resource sector is doing so well now, that it is those miners, and because those roads are mostly seen by this government as extractive zones, as they were in the colonial time, they were just built to get to those communities, to access resources and extract them. It is the same. We extract the lumber, we extract the quarry, we extract the laterite, we extract the ores in terms of the different material, sand, whatever it is. But what we do in the process is forget the people. And look what you have. The people have to suffer to get home. The people have to suffer to live a decent life. Like you and I can live on the coast, people have to suffer when these infrastructure and roads are not upgraded. But more than the suffering, these roads are contributing almost 2/3 outside of the non-oil sector. These are the roads that are contributing significantly to national development in terms of generating wealth and resources. But yet still what is reciprocated in getting them upgraded and what is returned to those people who we have disrupted their lives is not considerate, and it is very, very absent of any consideration. You're muted, MP.
It is so disgusting, but I want the operator to play this video. Viewers, you're going to have to excuse this, but I just want the operator to play this video so that the people you viewers would recognize how people are tired and fed up and frustrated about what is happening in this country.
There's no lie. This video evidence. What you going on here? Watch. Manga pull, watch. And the fucking truck them want to maintain the road. And the excavator them and everything they up that way. Right? Not far from me. And they couldn't full up this hole them. We pass this here, so going to Brazil since last week. Come back and reach it like this here. What you going on here? Yeah?
Mhm. Mhm. And
It
that
is
is the story of every
crazy.
interior road.
It
Mhm.
is crazy.
Go
Mhm.
And
Very.
not only our interior roads, but you go to some of the communities and you will see what is happening when they
Mhm.
show you.
Mhm.
You know what is
Mhm.
amazing? When Mia Mortley and them come to this country, they don't drive that road there on the East Bank. They don't
Mm-hmm.
drive them through
They
their
come
mid
off Eugene
time,
Correa. They come off at Eugene
especially
Correa.
now they go to Eugene
Bogle.
Correa.
Mhm.
I remember, and I don't even think they're up as yet. The Guyana Defense Force helicopters are down. And when it on the day of the president's birthday, the first lady was going out. She and the two boys, they were going out, and she was upset that that both helicopters were down, and
Mhm.
that she couldn't use the service. She was upset. But you see, again, we're saying those who feel it know it.
No,
Certainly. Certainly.
When you feel it, you know it. So she was upset
it's
that day, and I
true.
said, I'm glad it happened to she,
Mhm.
because she
Mm-hmm.
understands what other Guyanese are faced
Mhm.
with. You remember just about 3
Right.
weeks or so ago when they were advising those who have to travel, if you're flying, the time that you should be leaving home because of the
Mhm.
congestion on the East Bank.
It's true.
These, these jumbies don't carry these foreign nationals, these presidents and these prime ministers. They don't drive them through some of the roads that we
Nope.
have to drive, you know.
Nope.
And that
Nope.
is what I want them to do. They come and
E-
they show them all
Even
the
those ministers
roundabout
don't drive those roads.
and the this and the that. Well, they come with the sirens all the time. They show them this and that, but they don't show you the ghetto. They must show you the ghetto because they got
true.
ghettos in the country too. Let them come and see where people live. You know, and I
It's
speak
true.
about that. I want us to touch a little bit on this squatting thing.
Mm.
I hear the minister of law books talk about squatters. Let me remind him that they
Attacking
were the people
president.
who said to the people of this nation, go and squat anywhere. When
It's true.
former Prime Minister Hamilton Green was the mayor, they tell the people in Georgetown, go and squat anywhere. That's how we have those squat. That's how we have all of those people living on what we call the dam and the dump and the so on and the so on. And now you're telling the people you want to remove them from there. MP Sharma, I'm going to give you the lead on this.
Well, you know, I think the minister can do well to start with the commander in squatters with the president. The president got a 20-acre land, and that was up to 2020. And not unless the president is saying he gifted himself or he gave himself another 130 acres of land that, you know, he is actually denying others while giving himself. And I doubt whether that happened because we know in lands and survey it's not there. So then he is literally squatting on 130 acres of land. But here what we did to persons along that similar Linden Soosdijk Highway at Hillfoot. Here we did to people in Amelia's ward who occupied similar lands along those same zones. Here what we did to people in Moblissa. Here what we did to people in Mukka. We bulldozed their lands. We went to those persons and we didn't give those Guyanese an opportunity, even though they've built on those lands, they've lived on those lands. Some of those lands have been gifted to them through ancestral lineages. And also, they've demonstrated the ability to maintain and manage those lands over the years. Now, if you're saying they need to be regularized, if you're saying you're going to work with, and I'm going to be on Professor Hines' program this evening, and we're going to do a very deep dive into where Lands and Survey have left, coming from the coalition and Mr. Trevor Ben. The Lands and Survey as an agency and where it is to date, 6 years on, without a board, which not should be in place, but constitutionally said shall be in place. And to date, only the president is able to sign off on state lands. But we can go to those housing in the central housing and authority and those lands that are not regularized. I know we spoke to the minister in Parliament, and I asked him specifically about communities like Prosville. I asked him specifically about communities like Andyville and Rassville and some of those communities where people are living, and they're to regularize those areas, and they have not. How they have also denied those people the opportunity when it comes to accessing loans, but more than anything else, continue to live with the fear that they are squatting and government at any time can come and take those lands. So what we're seeing is not a government, again, working to understand the environment in which they have placed Guyanese. Government in central housing and planning, as one of the board members recently as the mayor, I know have 60,000 files, application. This is application on file. And all they could have said to us at the Building Expo is that they're considering how to deal with the first 10,000. And in dealing with that 10,000, they got a 3,000 in Region 2, in Region 4, a 1,000 in Region 10. Now, where do you find that other 50,000 on file? That's on file. We're not talking about new people getting into the system. We are speaking on file, and it is so difficult to deal with the 10,000. Now you have 50,000 remaining and more coming into the system. But what this government is doing, instead of dealing with the regularizing, instead of ensuring the housing program, and we had the history of the self-help, we had the programs that the coalition had started with the different duplexes and how they wanted to ensure they had those turnkey homes. What you had is a government that stopped all of that, corrupt the system that you had, even the central housing chief CEO being caught up in the big scandal of owning homes and all of that. Is what this government wants. But at the same time, as they reward themselves in this confused environment, they continue to put the pressure by bulldozing the homes. But let me add this further. In all of that, and these lands that people are living on, while we were in Amelia's ward, we saw a lot of the migrants come in and take some of those same lands, forcing the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the CEO of, I don't know what he was doing in Linden, Go Invest, to come to Linden MP, to come to Linden. And we then recognize it is this organized approach being taken by the minister to first find these migrants not only jobs at the sawmill, but encourage them to live on those same lands that they removed those people from, that they claimed were squatting and bulldozed, and now are being occupied by other people. And this is not only in Region 10. It is happening in Region 1, it is happening in Region 7, and it is happening in Region 4.
Correct.
It's like what? Go ahead, Cassie. Go right ahead. Sorry.
So, in addition to what MP Sharm is saying, I remember just a few months back, I was in the Friendship area on the east bank of the Mraro with MP Nima Flubes, and we were speaking to the residents there. They bulldozed that new scheme in the back of Friendship only the other day too. And I was asking MP, I asked her, what are we going to do in a situation like this? And might I remind the citizens of Guyana that, this isn't a government who sincerely cares about us. Because while I was there, I met a teacher and she has 5 children. So I was speaking to her and interacting with her, and she said, for so long, I've been going into housing day after day. I've been going into housing for the longest while, just asking them to assist me with a place, explaining to the ministers my situation. Sometimes when she goes there, there's nobody to assist her. Sometimes when she goes there, she is being told by the minister's secretary that, oh, the minister isn't in, you have to book an appointment, and it is never happening. So when I spoke to her, I was enlightened that, she wasn't even at home when they took her children and put them on the street with just, I believe the baby at that time was about 5 months old or something of the sort, just a few months old, with 4 other young children, none of them past the age of 13. And I was asking a lot of questions. And one of the very men that they sent to bulldoze the place, to destroy the place, said he had to tell them, no, I can't do this because these are children. So what is happening in our country is that we're seeing something on repeat over and over and over. The government does not care. Same thing, different days.
And I want to highlight, I was there in Mocha All 3 of the days, the Monday, the Tuesday, and the Wednesday, I was right there. As a matter of fact, the operator of the excavator attempted to hit me with the boom of that excavator, because I stood there with 9 other women on Tuesday, no, on Monday, when they were attempting to come through there. We stood up there against the police as well. And we said, you know, they're going to return. And when they came on Wednesday, they came with the riot squad. But you pass there now and see what is happening there. If anything is happening on that plot of land, you know why? You know what? That plot of land was supposed to have been for one of their friends. But because of the big outcry, they simmered down. But you pass there now, you're going to see bushes as if it's a forest. And you'll see some animals grazing there. You know, I want to say, you can talk all you want about Linden Forbes, Samson Burnham, but you can never say that Linden Forbes, Samson Burnham bulldozed people off of lands. You know what he did when he was prime minister and when he became president? He built housing schemes. And not only with houses, but they had health centers. You had a play field.
Community.
You had a police outpost. You know, you had proper roads. You had water. You had electricity.
Schools and everything.
You had schools. You can say what you want about him. He ensured that he lived to his motto, which said, we will feed, clothe, and house the nation. He was the person who ensured that we know today about making our local fruits and we don't have to depend on raisins from the US and elsewhere. He taught us how to use our own resources here. We had a glass factory. Let me remind the people. We had a factory here where we assembled vehicles. You know?
It's true, MP.
We had this Sonata textile mill that gave us materials to make clothing. So the Guyana Defense Force, they didn't have to go overseas and import materials. They could have gotten it right here. Who destroyed that? The PPP, and they sold those places to their families, their friends, and their favorites. So you can say how much of a dictator Burnham was. But Burnham placed us on the map for positive things. You talked about plantain chips. You talked about rice flour. But you're praising it now and you're boasting about it now. Hypocrites we have along here. But I want to show us this video. Operator, I think you have this clip now that we are going to look at, because you see all these people who we got there sitting down.
Listen to me. Right, look, I got a position. Yeah, because this the man went in front there in the front lane. This guy went in front there. What? Got the energized vehicle, right? So you get the crap off, get the this is my vehicle. And disconnect the battery. This guy come back from there with me to me. We trying to get the obstruction clear. He coming from East Coast. This vehicle coming. I can't remember. All I see is the vehicle there. That's
I want you to know, operator, if you could focus and put it on still the vehicle that really created the accidents. Viewers, I want you to know that this vehicle is state vehicle, this vehicle. And it was driven by the fire chief, Mr. Wickham, who has reached the age of retirement. And he is being contracted on and on and on to continue. He's 58 years old now. So it's 3 years contract, 1 year's contract he would have been given. I am hearing it is alleged that this is about the 3rd or the 4th state vehicle that he would have crashed. Who is paying for this vehicle to be repaired? Why we still have a retiree serving at the head of the fire at the fire service, keeping down all the other officers who would have worked and are ready now to take over as chief. You know why? Because the government can manipulate them like puppets. Who will repair this vehicle? It's parked right now at the head office on Mandela Avenue there, that they forced to commission because it was built by the Mohammeds. Them give the Mohammed the contract anyhow. But after they were indicted and sanctioned, they don't want to commission this fire service. It's not playing a big role. But this vehicle is parked there right now. If you pass, you'll see it. Who will repair this vehicle? Minister Onage Waldron. Unless you start holding people accountable, we will continue to call you out. This is about the third or fourth vehicle it is alleged that the fire chief has crashed. 5 vehicles or 6 vehicles would have been hit here as a result of the fire chief. It is said he jumped the traffic lights because he had a siren on blazing. So he jumped the traffic lights and he hit into vehicles. And it was one vehicle after the other vehicle after the other vehicle. And we've seen numerous police officers damaging government property and nothing happening to them. MP Sharma, I'll give you the go, and then I'll ask Councillor Hackett to give us her view on this.
MP and Councillor, and to your audience, I come back to that structure culture approach where we have these structures, whether it's the fire service, whether it's the police force, and the culture we call on the Minister of Home Affairs is one where it is not one of accountability, it is not one of transparency. So when you have a culture like that, the structure adapts to that. You have retirees, you have inconsideration of the use of state vehicles, you have inconsideration of the use of the road while using state vehicles, whether it is police or fire or even ambulance services. These officers and institutions are allowed because of how the structure and the culture that perpetuates this sort of behavior comes from the very top, minister and government included. So Guyanese must understand, again, you see, you can be driving, going home this afternoon, a nice, easy Wednesday afternoon, and he who feels it knows it. And you may say, oh, that is them, let us try there with her. But I say to you, it could be any one of us based on what is happening in this society in general.
MP, Councillor Hackett, I'm calling you MP all the time, girl.
Right, I'm taking it. In addition to both of you, my thing is we gotta have a structure. As MP Sharma was saying, who feels it knows it, because indeed it could happen to any one of us. It could be anybody. It could be our relatives, our friends, our colleagues, but unless something is done, or unless something with sense, I should say, is done, or an approach with careful planning and strategy is taking place, then there's nothing that we would be able to do as citizens unless we continue to call out on the Minister of Home Affairs to get it done, to get it right. I've been seeing a lot of accidents. I've been seeing a lot of things being done. I've been seeing so many things happening, where the Minister of Home Affairs should be calling things out. She should be making statements, and she should be able to tell or address the nation as to what is her approach, what is going to be done. But up to date, we've seen nothing ever since Onage would have taken office as the Minister of Home Affairs. We've never seen her come out and say, okay, this is the approach I'm now going to take. We've never seen her come out and take accountability, but she keeps covering up mess. And the thing is that I really want to put out there this afternoon is, unless we hold the government accountable, this will continue to happen. Because if it is alleged that this is like the 5th or the 6th vehicle that he has crashed, what is going to happen if she gives him a next one, or what is going to happen if he now takes the next state vehicle? Now it is now a concern in my view. What is the relationship between the two? That is it. That is it for me. What is the relationship between the two? Why isn't she looking into these things or coming out to give a statement? And, this afternoon, I'm actually calling on the Minister of Home Affairs to come out and allow the citizens of Guyana to know what are you willing to do or what will you be doing in situations like these? Because it is far too long since you've been in that office that we've not heard anything, or we've not seen a single statement being released by yourself to tell us, okay, this is what is going to happen. We've not seen anything of the sort. So this afternoon, I'm calling on the minister to come out and, enlighten the citizens of Guyana. What is your approach? Tell us about your approach in situations like these. Thank you, MP.
But let me say this for our viewers. This incident occurred last week. It was between Conversation Tree and the Embankment Road. So he was blazing through Conversation Tree, trying to come over the other side and beat the traffic light. So when the traffic light changed, vehicles started coming in both directions. And so he smashed into one of the vehicles. If it were MP Sharma, well, don't talk about McDonald, because you would have seen that all over. If it were MP Sharma, you would have heard opposition MP Solomon Sharma, careless driving.
And their cameras are wrong. Their cameras are wrong, all of those lights, so they would have observed every one of them.
All right. You know what one news agency said? A 58-year-old man attached to the Guyana Fire Service. One news agency. It didn't say who the man was, but I am saying to you that this is the retired fire chief. This is the fire chief who was retired, and he has been given 1-year contracts by this government, stifling all the others who are there. I'm sure, let me remind you, just the other day, we saw the police harassing a fire service officer at the National Stadium. Y'all remember? When he was coming out there with the fire engine and the generator that was there before, it wasn't there before, but when he was coming out, it was there, and he tried to swerve and a wire burst and it pulled the generator. The generator happened to roll on to the minister. I think it's Ben's sister. What's her name? What's Ben's sister? I can't remember her name.
The Minister of Housing, Junior Minister of Housing.
The Junior Minister of Housing, Ben. The vehicle that she was sitting in. And you saw the aggression of those traffic ramps. Did you remember the aggressiveness of those traffic ramps? Now, all we see is Mr. Wickham there, and he's dodging from the camera because he recognized that people are videoing. He's dodging from the camera. But if operator, could you play that video for us again? So you'll see him there in his uniform. Nothing coming from the Guyana Police Force. Nothing coming from the Minister of Tint.
Yeah. That's our big obsession.
And he will walk scotch-free because you know what they're going to do? They're going to settle the issue with those other vehicles that were damaged.
It's true.
I am saying the brush that we painting Solomon Sharma with must be used to paint the fire chief with the same brush. Because it was recklessness, not because you got an alarm, siren on your car. And that is why we are saying the fire chief should not have any siren on his car. The law doesn't provide for him to have a siren on his car. But again, everybody big and pompous with themselves. Minister of Tint is either you go or you put yourself in place to be formed.
That's right.
But again, I tell you, they put you there to fail you, so you might as well go home. They put you there to fail you. Look again, you'll see the traffic chief, the fire chief down there. Look him right there in that dark uniform. That's the man there. I don't know if you're too old, boss, but I ain't gonna tell you that you're old. If you can't focus, stay home. Get out the place and make way for other people. Look him walking there. Get out the way and make way for other people, younger people who are qualified more than you. It's the same thing with Hickens, but I see Hickens get some honorary doctorate now. But that's the same man that collected from the businessman money to he was the wedding planner. You all remember when he collected gifts and so on, monetary gifts, and then he handed over monies that were left over. All of them need to go home. Go home. Just
It's
the
true.
same way education push experience in a corner, we must push all these men who retire and all the others who in the ministries who they got their stifling people.
It's true.
Send them home. We are grateful for what you did. We thank you for your service. But your time has come where you can't be in these senior positions anymore.
It's
Minister
true.
of Tent, time for you to speak up. We know you're going to talk about this accident, because you're going to talk about your son. So you don't say anything about it. But it's disgusting. Very disgusting.
Very much.
Correct.
Very much.
Viewers, you have a choice. And more especially, let me put quote unquote, our citizens who are living in what they term squatting areas. Y'all better be careful. Local government elections coming up. Y'all better be careful.
It's true.
Y'all better be careful. You see some of you who live in Albistown and East, the Penitence in Northeast and so on, you don't pay your rates and taxes and you've been given amnesty by the coalition and by our mayors.
Yes.
You better start paying up your taxes, because if you don't, and you go and put your X for them at the local government elections, plenty of you are going to be found wanting. They will remove you from your homes because the law gives them the right, if you owe the taxes, for the government to seize your properties. Y'all better be careful. Y'all better be careful. Some of you and many of you made wrong choices on September 1st. You better start making the right choices now. And it's not only for ACNU members. PPP supporters are suffering as we speak, because when you go into the communities, they will tell you, you don't put me on camera. Don't put me on camera. And they are speaking out against it. You have the opportunity to make the right choice when local government elections come around. But that's a whole different story that we'll talk about. But it's the same things, different ways. Mr. Wickham, we appreciate what you would have done. We compliment you on the service that you would have rendered. But the time is now. Just be decent and do the honorable thing. Mr. Clifton Hickens, is the same day. It's a different thing, but we want you to do the right thing. Just bow out gracefully. And let's have people who are much more competent, because look how many things have happened under your watch. It means that you've lost your sting. Your sting was probably when you were in Linden and those guys were shot there. But you lose your sting now. So, 14 years, you lose your sting. Bow out gracefully. Bow out gracefully. And we're going to have to ask some of the corrupt ministers to do the right thing. Send in your resignations, bow out gracefully. But they say when dog get accustomed to sucking eggs, they can't stop, eh? They can't stop. And that's what happens to them. They get accustomed to putting their hands in the cookie jar. But they can't stop now. But my guess, I know that our time is upon us and we have to go, because I know MP Sharma has to prepare for another program and I have to prepare for advancing the cause from 6:30. I'm looking out for you. Tell your friends and tell your families we're looking out for you. At 6:30 for advancing the cause. At 7 for you, MP Sharma. At 7 for MP Sharma on Politics 101. And then we have MP Sherrod Duncan coming on at 8. So we've got a packed itinerary for you. Come, listen, learn. I know that you're big and you got sense, and we will do the right thing, because you have felt the wrath of these incompetent people, these wicked people, these sanctimonious gangsters. They call the AP and you folks sanctimonious gangsters, and they're right now in their faces. I'll take Councillor Hackett, and then I'll take MP Sharma before we close.
It was a pleasure being here. But something that I want to highlight is the National Grade 6 assessment. I've been dying to speak about it all afternoon. I'm going to be very quick. What we've been seeing what we've been seeing over the years is that the scores, it's dropping every time the results are out. We've seen a drastic drop over the years, because I remember when I would have written in 2016, it was, I believe it was at 530 something, but now we've seen today that the score, the highest grade was approximately 484, right, or something of the sort. But my main concern today is, why is it dropping, right? This is something for you to ponder upon. Now I know, of course, MP McDonald is going to be addressing this very soon. And the next concern that I have, that I really have to get out there, is why are we sending students to schools that doesn't align with their grades, right? So, Guyanese, we must arise, we must speak up, and we must come to the realization that enough is enough. Because remember, the children are tomorrow's future. And if we're going to be able to allow our students to suffer like this, I mean, somebody with 471 being sent to Brickdam Secondary, somebody with 471 being sent to North Georgetown. These are all A scores, and I don't believe that they should be going to those schools. I mean, I was looking at something just a few minutes before I joined the show, and it was saying a student with 442 was sent to Westminster over the river. And when I looked at it, that school is known for being one of the lowest schools over there. So now this is a concern for me. And citizens of Guyana, I urge you to speak up. When injustice is being served, you speak up and hold the government accountable. Thank you, MP.
Well, Jasmine, I want to thank you for being here, but I'm happy that you highlighted that, because we were supposed to talk a little on it, but of course we had so many other things to talk about. But yes, the scores, lowering the scores for the national grade 6 assessment exams is worrying.
Very true.
I remember back in my days, it was 697 was the high score then. And from then to now, we're down at 4 something. And every year, and the total then was 700. And 697 was the highest score that the child gained. And we saw from moving from 700 to 4 something, it is saying something about us. Then in 1989, we hadn't all of the monies that we have now. Now we got monies, we got $1 trillion budgets that we're talking about. We got billions upon billions being poured into education, but yet we can't get it right. You know why? Because the chief education officer, his son was going to a primary school, a private school when he was at primary. He was at Lenora first, and he had a misdemeanor, and they moved him from there and sent him to private school. The Minister of Education presently, her son is at School of the Nations. The minister before, her children were at Mays. And you can't tell me that you are the Minister of Education, responsible particularly for the public schools, but your child is attending private school. It means you yourself ain't got no faith in the public schools. So why you're a minister? Several seniors would have seen their children going to private schools as well. It means, therefore, that you're not worth your salt.
It's true.
MP Sharma.
Thanks for having me on the program, MP McDonald, and it's good to be on with Councillor Hackett. I want to commend both yourselves. I know, Councillor, you are doing some good work in Region 4. I know it's tough, but it's good to see that we have young, vibrant people like yourself going into communities, to be able to relate to the actual issues on the ground, as you can just relate to that mother and her children being homeless. And even to relate to some of these national issues. The national grade 6 is a very topical matter. I know Sister Coretta is going to make some more of this. It in itself is a very big topic. It is a foundational discussion of how we advance this nation in preparing our children for that destination to take over this country. And that sort of approach, we are celebrating the 1%, but we must remember it's over 15,000 of our children wrote that exam, and not just 100 as we are celebrating that 100. Think about the other 14,000 plus children, and just what we have to consider in terms of what they received, in terms of investment in their schooling, and the performance of what we are seeing in terms of how they advance going forward in this school. But thanks, MP, for having me on the program. There's so many things that we have to address. As Councillor Hackett rightly said, that we encourage Guyanese to take the opportunity to pay attention to what is taking place. Least we are all consumed by this very frightening environment that this government has created for us.
Well, I want to say thank you to both of you for being here with me. I know that our viewers are quite excited and they have learned quite a lot, because I'm seeing the messages coming to me on my WhatsApp and you see the comments that are flowing. And so quite a lot of things they are learning. And this is what we do. We don't operate like the government in secret. We bring the facts out there to you, and we give you the opportunity to be able to read, to be able to listen and analyze and arrive at your own conclusions as well. Viewers, I want to thank you too for being here with us. And somebody send a message, please, to Anand Budram for me and tell him I think he's too big to be so stupid. Somebody send out a hi to James Bond for me and tell him that the opposition, while we are looking for cow and goats, that is what will help us to get the votes. He didn't remember that part. While we are looking for cow and goats, that is what will help us to get the votes. And James, we understand that you were beaten into subjection. We know about the land story, yeah? MP, you remember that issue that is before the court for? And we understand. So
yes,
James,
yes.
Hi to you, James Bond. You must give thanks to the coalition government, to the PNC, because that's where you got your nurturing for. So must thank the PNC. Every time you open up your mouth to talk, must remember that it's because of the coalition, because of the PNC, because of stalwarts in the PNC, you are able to be the person that you are today. So ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Remember that always, James. And for others like you, we all remember that. With that, I want to say it was good being here with you on same things, different days. And we look forward to seeing you again this evening. May God continue to bless you. Be careful as you traverse the roadways. Look out for people like the fire chief who not looking out for himself and looking out for you. Look out for them, and God will see you again later this evening. God bless you. Take care. And thank you to the operator for being such a good operator.